The best of ACS.
My notepad is sitting in my passenger seat, and someone can bring it into me. But Neil's hanging out back there. Maybe he wants to just come in and say hi.
Yes.
I also, here's my wiring. It's funny. Dr. Drew goes nuts for flat earthers. It bothers the shit out of him. I look at them as sort of guys who hunt Yetis or something. Like, I'm sort of like, that's just nuts. Yeah. That's garden variety nuts to me. I'm looking for more of the people in position of power who are nuts that's starting to creep in on me.
Let me pose this to you, because I went in the same way. Like, these people are insane. I wasn't convinced. I wasn't convinced of their point of view or their theories or their whatever. They certainly have some Dunning-Kruger and some confirmation bias. I'm interested in Neil deGrasse Tyson's take on this as well, because have you seen Behind the Curve, the documentary about flat earthers?
I've seen bits of it, but I couldn't sit through the whole thing.
There's a great part of
Sorry.
There's a great part at the end.
Hold on, I'm picturing the scene with George C. Scott in Hardcore, where he goes into a theater. This is from the 70s. He goes into an old school porn pussycat theater back when that's when where you could see pornography. Yep. He's sitting alone with like 3 other guys, and he says, "Put the movie on." And he's now seeing that it is his daughter in this hardcore film. And I picture Neil deGrasse Tyson watching the Flat Earther doc. We'll just turn it up a little. Let Neil, tell me if this in any way reflected your physicality.
Trembling.
No, that was not me watching that film.
You sure there weren't traces of elements? I'm not saying verbatim, but...
No, for example, at the beginning of Ramadan, I tweeted about the Burj Al Khalifa building, the tall. Yes, it's like 1.5. It's crazy tall.
Right.
And so...
Is that a technical term?
Crazy tall. So...
Does that mean super tall, super duper tall?
I think hella tall.
Yeah, it's bigger than duper tall. So the higher up you go, the later the sun sets for you. And so at the top, the sun sets 4 minutes later than it does at ground level. So they give out little sheets of paper. So if you want to precisely start eating when the sun sets, depending on what floor you live on, you don't get to eat at the same time other people do.
Wow.
So that is because, of course, you are seeing farther beyond the horizon of people who are lower down on the earth, along the curved surface of the earth.
Well, that's your opinion.
Vis-a-vis curved surfaces of the earth. So, Mr. Tyson, there's a great part at the end of that documentary.
Please call me Neil.
There's a great part at the end of the documentary, which is worth seeing, where a JPL scientist, they're getting together, these JPL scientists are getting together at a pub in Pasadena for like a work thing. And one of them gets up and like addresses them as sort of informal. And he's this youngish guy, and he's like, hey, they're talking about, he's like, I want to talk about flat earthers right now. And they all kind of giggle and laugh because, they're JPL and they're flat earthers. He's just like, these people are not dumb. These people are scientists gone wrong. They want to investigate. They want to learn. They have theories, but somewhere along the way, they went the wrong way. And what we're doing is pushing them to the fringes instead of like embracing a young generation of curious people or people who have outside the box thoughts. Granted, these thoughts are not right, but
they're not outside the box. They're off the reservation.
Okay.
This is fun. So here's the thing. I appreciate and understand exactly what you said, conveying this concern. My concern is that when you have flat earthers mobilized as they are, it is a reminder, it is an indicator that we live in a country that protects free speech and in a country that has a failed education system. People, they think that being skepticism is just something you can be about everything. The fact is, you don't want to be so open-minded that your brains spill out, right? There's a point where you have to recognize the meaning and value of data, of research, of information, so that can then put your skeptical thoughts on a track that aligns with objective reality. If you continue to doubt it, then you you're hell bent on maintaining a belief system that is unresponsive.
You reject contrary evidence.
Correct. I had someone who I met who wasn't quite sure whether we landed on the moon. A full-grown man, educated, has a job, owns a home, right? And he says, and he trusts me and he likes me, and he says, I'll believe we landed on the moon if you tell me we landed on the moon. I said, that's not why you should believe we landed on the moon. You should know we landed on the moon because there is evidence, and it's not because I spoke it. It's not because I have pedigree. It's because it is. And I said, so I said, what would convince you? This is what you have to do. What would convince you that we went to the moon? He said, if we had photos of the landing site, that would do it. So I said, we have photos of the landing site. So I gave him the website. The next morning he comes back, okay, I saw those photos, but it was a NASA site, and that could be still a government cover-up. I said, you asked me to provide you this evidence, and now you still don't want it? That is the end of our conversation. I have nothing more to say. And as the saying goes, if an argument lasts more than 5 minutes...
he left the Oval Office. In a huff. In a huff. He said to Mr. Trump, good day.
No, if an argument lasts more than 5 minutes, then both sides are wrong. That's an old saying.
Yeah.
So once he denied the evidence he had asked me for, there was not much more I can do in that conversation. And I said, so he's not interested in learning. He's interested in maintaining a belief system. Yes. And by the way, most religions of the world are the maintenance of a belief system. So this is not a foreign concept of what it is to be human. It is a very real and very important part of our evolution and who and what we are. It's just that if you wanted to match an objective reality, you cannot cling to a belief system. You have to be open to what data shows you to be true.
May we drill down on this from a slightly different angle? Because I'm always interested in not really... You're making an argument for flat Earth, I'm making an argument against, or you're telling me that Sasquatch exists, and I'm saying it doesn't. I like to sort of approach it from a different angle, which is, what is motivating you? What's motivating me is nothing. I grew up looking at pictures of the Earth from outer space, and I'm done.
That was good enough.
No more thought about it.
Yeah.
You're burning a lot of calories and highly motivated. So let's really drill down on your motivation versus your belief. Because you're burning a lot of calories. I don't have to burn calories doing what I'm doing because I'm right and it exists. You're burning a lot of calories. What is motivating you to burn all those calories?
That's an excellent where the line in the sand.
And I have thoughts. First thought, sidebar, what are the chances that there'd be 2 adult males coming to my studio today, one black, one white, one insists on being called Neil, the other insists on being called Dog, and it is in fact the black individual who answers to Neil and the white
Dog.
guy who answers to Dog. What are the chances?
Very low.
Lower than you'd expect.
If I repeated this experiment 100 times by taking a random black man and a random white man and brought them to the studio, both insisting on being called by either Dog or Neil, and it... So that's number one.
Yeah. Spooky.
This is eerie already.
Serious.
Because before the show started, Dog the Bounty Hunter was like, call him Dog. He wants to be called Dog. And then you said, call me Neil.
I insist.
Okay. And Neil's such a good white name, too. All right.
And the middle name DeGrasse. Yeah, that's totally not off from the hood, you know? Wait, one quick thing.
Yes.
But the best rebuttal to the flat Earth that I've seen in my Twitter stream was, we know Earth isn't flat because otherwise all the cats would have pushed everything off the edge by now. That's I thought was the best. That's
so what I like to approach, I've approached everything in life from a non-scientific, but from a sort of psychodynamic, emotional, whatever. And so when Ed Asner sits in your seat and he starts explaining to me that the Twin Towers came down because they were rigged with C4 by the government and blah, blah, blah. And I sit and I listen to him and I go, does he really believes this happened? And then later on, he says, Bush lied, people died. And then later on, he says, we could have liberated Auschwitz in 1941 if we hadn't. And I go, oh, I get it. You don't like this country.
okay.
You see, you don't believe It's not so much that you believe the towers were taken down.
There's a deeper thing
You have
going
another
on.
belief. And when you sit next to Spike Lee on an airplane and he's explaining that the Army Corps of Engineers dynamited the levees to drown everyone in New Orleans, you go, huh? Where did you get this in? Oh, no. You hate this country. You don't believe this happened. You're being motivated by this. These people hate their stepdad. This is not them thinking...
I thought they were going to hate their
Wait,
planet.
Adam, did you have one too many counseling sessions here?
Fuck you, John, if you're listening. You're not my real dad, and you're not the boss of me. No, what I'm saying is Spike Lee is a wildly intelligent person. Why does he think we blew the levees? Ed Asner is a very intelligent. Does he really think it? Or
Can I tell you what I
does
did?
he hate the country and that's what's clouding his thinking?
Just a quick interlude here. So I have a book coming out next month on
That's
letters
right.
that I've exchanged with people over the years. One of them is a 9/11 denier, or he was not so much a denier. He was a 9/11 curious
Skeptic.
Yeah, he's just kind of seen both. He wanted to know where I sort of. Where I stood on this. Now, I was eyewitness to 9/11. I was 4 blocks away from grounds. That's where I live. And so it happened outside my window. And I write about that also in the book. I had a letter to my family, and I put that in there. Here's the point. The person says, yeah, it had to be explosives because it was a free fall, and you only get a free fall if all the stabilizing struts are taken out simultaneously. And I said, well, I'd heard that claim. And so I went back to the video, and you can calculate how fast a building that tall should fall if it's in free fall. This is Physics 101. You learn this in maybe the 3rd week of Physics 101. And so I calculated it. And it turned out it fell half as fast as a free fall would take it down. And so I told the guy that I alerted some of the 9/11ers of this. And in the email stream, one of them said, oh, don't believe what he said. He's on the other side. And I said, it's not about me. It's a freaking equation. This is Isaac Newton. This is knowledge. This is how the world works. It's why planes don't fall out of the sky. It's why buildings can't exist in the first place. It's physics. And so they were in denial of objectively true physics. At that point, there's not much you can do.
Right.
Well, they hate their dad. They do. I'm telling you, you guys think they think the earth is flat. They hate their dad. They hate their stepdad.
Is this a
I
new
know
meme?
all the chicks who hate authority. I can tell you every chick and every thought she's ever had by the experience she had with her dad and her mom.
Is this a new meme where it's like flat earthers hate their stepdad?
Yes.
Somebody get on it now.
Well, if you really you break it down, you go, some of these people are pretty intelligent. Yes. How do they believe something that's patently false? There is maybe
we have the wrong definition of what it is to be intelligent.
But let me.
If you have to make excuses for those who are,
I completely agree. But what I am saying is, in the time we're living in, the inner emotion is become so filled with creatine and so supercharged and so enabled by all the asswipes telling you you're never wrong and everything in you and you're special and nothing else like you. That inner emotion is
it has consequences.
It's so powerful.
It has consequences.
That it can go right over science and right over Hubble telescope photographs. It can go right over everything that exists in nature and in science and power past it. And that's what's going on.
One of my more popular tweets was when we had that photo of the black hole about a year ago, whenever that came out. Beautiful. It was headlines, banner.
Photo of that black hole.
Wait. So there's the black hole there, and so everyone was very excited. Headline news. So I had a very simple tweet. It was, scientists report a photograph of a black hole, a zillion light years away. Okay. And everyone says, ooh, ah. Scientists report that humans are warming planet Earth. Oh, no, that can't be true. That's all I put. That's all I put. So you are cherry picking what scientists are telling you. And talk about motivations. Scientists don't have any motivation for any. We're not all banding together and saying, let's create some alternative truth so that we can all get rich. Or so that we don't. In fact, we never agree on anything. You go to a science conference. Nobody's agreeing. But people think we're sitting back with our legs up on the desk in happy agreement with some kind of cherished concept. No, that's not how this works.
I agree.
I'm sorry, I'm screaming here. I'm sorry.
I know.
Love it.
Well,
Sorry.
that'll lead me to my next request, which is, I would like you to say in your deepest, most sincere but animated voice,
Yes.
Arby's, we've got the beef.
Bang Rames, watch out.
I mean it, because this could be the next gig. Really, give me three.
You want? All right. Arby's, we've got the beef.
Good. Now let's go a little more energy and a little more emphatic.
Arby's, we've got the beef.
Right. Okay. Now pretend a flat earther is standing in front of you and he just told you the CIA took down the Twin Towers. Really angry and motivated, and go.
Arby's, we've got the beef.
Oh, yeah.
I think
Good.
we found our man.
Bang Rames here.
You're out.
Done.
Sorry, there's a new sheriff and there's a new dog in town, but his name is Neil, but he's not a dog, but dog
Don't call him
dog. Yes, I think.
Now you pulled me in. I did our other show, and I was like I'm just doing my email, ready to leave, and y'all dragged me in here.
Yeah, well, I'll give you. I will tell people that the book. First off,
but it hasn't come out yet.
Yeah, but I will tell you, Accessory to War is
that one. Yeah,
is available in paperback as we speak.
Yeah, that's the history of astrophysics as a handmaiden to conquest. You think of us, and we are generally a peaceful, peace-loving folk, but we have concerns and we have discoveries and challenges and needs that have strong overlap with the needs of the military, like multispectral imaging of moving objects in the sky. Oh my gosh, there we are. Okay, right. There's high resonance, and it's been that way ever since the beginning.
It's available on paperback, and you can order it.
It's a fat book, so it's glad it's in paperback, so people can finally afford the thing.
You get on Amazon and bookmark us and click through. It always helps. Before we let you go, because we just sort of yanked you in here.
That's right. Mind my own business.
And
okay.
I'm
very pleased. In fact, thank you for your.
When we were
you're a fan of knowledge and of insight and of wisdom.
I am, and I find myself having semi-insulting conversations with people, and who are decent people, but I find myself. I was standing in my kitchen last night, and I was saying to my nanny, Olga, who was the kid's nanny. Now she's my nanny.
You have a nanny named Olga? This is like from a novel or something, right? Eastern European nanny.
No. She's Guatemalan.
Oh, Guatemala.
Oh, okay. Everybody. But anyway, I'm sitting with her.
Sorry, I'm thinking Helga.
And I said I'm doing the Baldwin roast on Saturday.
Oh, cool.
And
I look forward to that.
I got to get a black suit going, and I pulled out a couple of suits. And I'm going to be kind because I know she listens to the show. But I pulled out a couple suits, and she said, I can take them to the cleaners, and I can get them. Do they need to be pressed? Do they need to be cleaned? I said, probably pressed. I think they're clean or whatever. Can you do that? And then she paused, and she said, yeah, I have a few irons here, and I'd iron it myself. But every time I iron one of your shirts, it just doesn't get the wrinkles out. It doesn't work. And I said, is there something wrong with the iron? And she said, no, we have a bunch of irons. And I said, are they broken? Are they bad? Are they old? We should get a new iron. And she said, no, the irons are fine. And I said, well, okay, do we have an ironing board? And she said, no, yeah, we have an ironing board. And I said, well, what's the difficulty? And she said, it just never comes out right. And I said, well, you know how to iron, right? And she said, yeah. And I said, well, then what's going on? And she said, I don't know. It doesn't work out. And I said, okay, then I should buy a new iron? And she said, no, we have irons. We have irons. And I said, listen to me. I want the ability to iron. I want the ability for you to iron. I'm sorry.
Successfully.
I'm sorry I'm raising my voice now. I would like you to be able to successfully iron a shirt. Now, unless the shirts are haunted or the iron is possessed, then I will...
Or the shirts are made out of something that's not cloth.
Right. You are good at ironing. We have an ironing board. She's like, no, we have a bunch of irons. I'm like, okay. All I want is the ability for you to iron successfully. So sorry for getting sing-songy, but how do we...
Adam, tell us about your stepfather.
We must correct it. That fucking John
you
thinks he's the boss of me.
You are way overreacting to this, John.
I'm saying
Adam.
I want to solve a problem. I don't know. You want to say that the iron is haunted and that we have to get on with our lives.
Okay,
I
so
said
Adam,
I will go online. I will
here's
go
how
to
I would have done
Amazon.
that.
How would you do that?
It would have lasted
One help.
30 seconds, and I would have just bought a new iron and swapped it out. And then she would have found a new iron in the cabin.
But the part that's unclear to me is she keeps saying we have good irons.
The part
that's
unclear to me is why you maintain that argument with her. That's it's clearly the iron is not working. So get a new iron. Irons are not cheap. You can afford it.
Okay,
I mean,
that's what I told her. I told
her
I was having a fun conversation
iron
with
for $30.
Matt about sorry, you have to be my wife. But Matt, go to Amazon, find a highly rated, non-possessed
Bestseller.
iron, not one from New Orleans, from some gypsy.
And irons,
put a hex on it.
that's mature technology in modern society.
Not the Linda Blair collection.
Prime shipping, no possession.
No possession.
Don't go to that section.
You two made two great simultaneous jokes. Sorry, Brian, make your joke.
No, it's over. Prime shipping, no possession.
Yeah.
That's right.
Preferably.
All right.
I mean, listen, you can only do what you can do.
You know how you put distilled water in the iron? Maybe a priest could do it. He could take a stick and shake it at the iron.
Or maybe your body funk makes permanent wrinkles.
Oh.
These are all
If we're
things
exploring
to be
all
explored.
possibilities.
Asner says it's my funk that caused it. Jesus Christ. So I'm like going, just go get a good iron to make the iron work, please. Anyway, that's my lot in life. Neil, before we cut you loose.
What's that?
I liked when I spoke to you moments ago to be played at a later date, plugging the book, of course, and I'll give that a shot before we do this, because you can pre-order the new book as well, which is not sitting in front of me right
That's
now.
right, yeah.
Sorry.
Oh,
it
it
is.
is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Neil DeGrasse Tyson, Letters from an Astrophysicist. You can pre-order it on Amazon. In 2 minutes, the sort of whale oil story, which is we used to slaughter whales for oil.
Yes.
To make our lanterns go.
Yes, and we stopped, not because AOC told us to do it, but go ahead.
Oh, you want to hear? Yeah. So it's just an example of if we want to be honest about our motivations going forward, especially if you want to get 100 million people to agree to do something in a free market capitalist society, what are you going to get them to change their ways? Is it let's all gather together here and agree that we should do something, or you can make it economically in their interest to change. Sure. So one of the cleanest examples of this was when whaling was a huge industry, and whale oil was a primary source of our lighting and other uses. And so there surely were people of the day who said we shouldn't kill creatures that large. Their brains are much bigger than ours. There's surely people, but they had no influence. They had no real impact on anything on the whale trade. Until when did we stop killing whales? When we found oil in the ground. Now we have a secondary source, a more abundant source, an easier to obtain source, does not put your life and limb at risk. Be kept, Ahab chasing down a whale.
More plentiful too, I'd imagine.
At the time, certainly, correctly. So now you have that. Now you have the luxury of saying, I'm not going to kill a whale because it's a beautiful creature. But in fact, what's enabling that is the relative cost of those two exercises, not only to human life, but to your pocketbook. So if we're going to transform society into a Green New Deal society, I don't think it's going to work by just beating people over the head or telling them they're idiots or that the divisiveness that causes, I don't think is the way to go. What we need innovations so that the green economy becomes the economically sensible solution to what anyone would ever do with their pocketbook. Yeah. And right now you commented earlier about solar panels. It's nice to boast that you got solar panels on your roof. Are you ever going to recoup those costs? Yeah, in 50 years or in 30 years. Same with the Tesla. All right. Are you going to recoup the cost of that Model X?
No.
The Model X costs as much as a Lamborghini.
Yes.
Not Lamborghini, a Maserati. Right. So you're not really, but you get to say, I am contributing to this. And it forces Elon Musk to put up another filling station, another charging station. So the system the early adopters who are driven by principle more than by cost get to influence an infrastructure that is waiting for the tipping point so that everybody then joins in.
Well, principle is a luxury.
Yes, it is.
And
Yes, it is.
I have. It is. It's a luxury.
Yes.
And most people can't afford principle.
Yes.
Can
I tell you, I have a Republican confidant in Washington, a former member of Congress. And what he told me was, if you know you're going to lose an election, let's say you're running for any office, you can say whatever you want and sound as principled as you need to sound. If you're not going to win, you never have to implement it.
Right.
It's the winner that has to implement the idea, and that's where the challenges are. So I've never forgotten that. And so when you hear people saying very pie in the sky things and it sounds great and you just want to rally around it, but then you realize, no, they're not going to win the election. So they can say whatever they want and sound better than the person who ultimately wins the vote for that reason. So that was a sort of grounding point for me as I think about the world politically and culturally.
Star Talk Radio, by the way, is also where you can listen to Neil. Don't call him Dog. Let me hit Betty a sign, then Dog will come in here. Neil, thanks for hanging around.
And Adam, the day we invented time machine, there's no more betting. Think about it.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
Well, Biff Tannen took care of that.
Yeah, Back to the Future too.
Yeah, Back to the Future. Yeah.
Quick break. Dog the Bounty Hunter in the studio right after this.
And now, Alcoa presents Definitely Not a Jew on the Adam Carolla Show. Dateline, Odessa, Florida. A 27-year-old man was arrested after causing a disturbance at a cafe after he became enraged that he was served a Philly cheesesteak sandwich on a sesame seed bun. The cafe is inside a flea market. Definitely not a Jew.
Dog the Bounty Hunter is in studio, and our condolences over Beth's passing so recently. How long were you guys together?
31 years.
Wow. So I'm guessing you're still in shock over her passing.
Yes, sir.
I am so envious of people that have that crazy connection, that they have that person on the planet. I know I'm married, but let's be honest. Yeah, you know.
Oh my God, it's exciting.
No, if we worked together, I'd be arrested for murder. I
She
mean,
runs Cooler Drinks.
we've physically rode in the same SUV all day around.
That
We'd
I
just be
buy.
arguing. We can't stand out on a patio without getting into an argument. Forget arresting perps.
Mr. Carolla, we're looking for suspects. It was me. I did it.
I did it. So again, condolences.
Thank you.
I know you have a million thoughts about a million things. First off, I didn't know that you were in prison yourself for sentenced to 5 years.
Yes, sir. In the 70s, Texas.
What can you tell us the story behind that, and that you became the warden's barber?
Well, I was a member of the Devil's Disciples Motorcycle Club out of Texas, Colorado, Arizona. It's nationwide. I was sergeant of arms at 17.
Wow.
So one night we pulled up to do a drug deal, and one of my brothers went inside to buy it. And
When you say brothers, you mean
brothers in biker gang.
yeah, not biological brothers.
No.
Right. Okay.
And as they started talking, he pulled out a shotgun and said, "Just give me all of it." And the guy grabbed the gun, so it went off and hit him in the shoulder. So he came running outside and said, "You know, we could hear the shot. He was bleeding. His name was Don. He was bleeding. And the shotgun, the bottom piece wasn't on. So when it went off, it cut his hand. On the way to the hospital, he said, I hit him in the shoulder." And I go, "What? Hit who?" And so they dropped me off at my house. I went back over to the house, saw the police bringing him out. He was alive. And in the morning, 6 a.m., it said, "Dwayne Dog Chapman, Devil's Disciples, are being sought for the murder of Jerry Oliver in Pampa, Texas last night." My whole world changed.
At 17.
Yes.
How did you get caught up at 17 in that gang in the first place, and how did you rise to the level of sergeant of arms in that at 17? You're in high school. Theoretically,
I got straight A's out of the 7th grade. I was really smart.
How did you? Was your family chaotic?
Well, my father was white. My mother's Chiricahua Apache, so I was teased about being a San and my whole life.
So getting back to another Cher song we referenced earlier.
I think that's what it was. So
you're basically called half breed or whatever.
Yeah, half breed's okay, but it's a lot of other things that was not okay.
Right.
So I realized the brotherhood with the bikers was real, and I loved that. And so I was emancipated at 15 years old, and I took off from Denver, went to Phoenix, Arizona, and worked my way up through to Sergeant of Arms. I always talk about God still today. And so the president of the club, Houdat, said, we got a guy named the Preacher. We got a guy named John the Baptist who rode in the water all the time. And he said, you talk about God so much, you're very loyal, and you fight all the time with us. We're going to name you God spelled backwards, which is dog. The first few years I was puppy, and then as I became older, I became D-O-G.
What about your family of origin? I mean, becoming emancipated at 15 sounds like trouble in the home front.
Yes. My father was very physically, like, pull your pants down, get over that couch, and use a belt or a board. When I'd shower in school back then, how we all showered, the bruises were so bad that, other kids would make fun of me. So the physical violence was unbelievable. Not beating with fists, but the pants down and spanking.
Was your dad an alcoholic?
No.
That's what he did, huh?
Well, his dad took him out to the woodshed, tied him up to the shed, literally took a razor strap and whipped him. So that's how it was in that generation. And then it's passed on down to the next and the next and the next. And I have 12 children. I started at 15, and I said, I'm going to have so many of these babies to love that I'm never going to hit one of them. And then, of course, the Christians are, spare the rod, spoil the child. And if you look at the interpretation, a child is up to 2 years old. So you could whack them if they cross the street or touch them, but after 2, you should not hit the children. But so that's
so you were taking these beatings, and you said, I'm leaving.
I'm out of here. Correct.
And so at 15, did you say you became emancipated? You literally filed paperwork.
Yes, sir. By the courts, they said you're just uncorrigible, uncontrollable.
And what was your dad's reaction?
See ya. I went to join Vietnam, and they said, here, fill this out. How many times you've been arrested? And so I said, wow, do you got a bigger piece of paper? And they came to me and said, we'll take women and children before we take you. And my dad said, move out, burn your birth certificate, get out of here.
Have you had conversations or interactions with your dad beyond that? I mean,
after I got out of prison in 79, came back.
How long were you in prison?
18 months.
18 months.
Of a 5-year sentence. Mm-hmm. The warden, I elevated myself to warden's barber, because that guy you didn't want to beat up because he was a warden's barber and the guard's barber. And when girls had come to visit their husband, you had to be looking good, the warden.
Right.
So you didn't touch the warden's barber. So I noticed that. So I elevated myself to be that. And then I was inmate counselor, because I had guys walk up and say, dog, how you spell was? And I said, W-E-Z, and they're like, thank you. And I'm like, what are you writing?
Right.
Let me help you. And then when their people died, an inmate's mom or dad died, I was the one that had to go tell them, anybody with the mother still alive, take one step forward. Not so fast, Willie.
Right.
I said, warden, that's not the way to do it. Let me do it.
Oh, my God.
Wow. So, it's interesting that you've always had a motor. They say that dog don't hunt, but this dog did hunt. But
yes, sir.
When you have young people and they have a motor, but they have no rudder, they can just go in a million different directions, oftentimes bad. So it's like you always had this motor, but because of your environment, you were going in negative directions quickly.
Quickly, very
But
good
if you
point.
take that motor and direct it and give it a rudder, then it goes positively quickly as well, which we've seen. I mean, you just got to prison, which is a super negative place, and your motor turned it into a sort of positive place for you.
Yes.
So when you got out in 79, what were the thoughts at that point?
Well, at 78, I was the barber shop was just like Gunsmoke. I mean, you're young, but somebody remember you could watch reruns. Looked like the barber shop in Gunsmoke. The guards would come tie their horses up to the post, and it was just like that. So one day we were out there, me and the Shoeshine boys, what they call him, and an inmate, one of my friends, Bigfoot, had been told, that his niece or mother or something died. So as they put him in the hole, kind of like Cool Hand Luke, as you go in there to the hole, I saw the guard come out backwards because Bigfoot hit him right in the mouth.
Right.
And so he starts, this is 6'8", kid and run, starts running down the road, and the guard towers, I could hear the 30-30 rifles, they're going to kill my friend.
Right.
And so I took out after him to save his life. And as I tackled him, the warden Hilligast ran up behind me and threw down handcuffs in the dust and said, "Hook him up, bounty hunter."
Wow.
And I'm like, wow, bounty hunter, wait a minute. That's the bad guy turned good that saves all the girls tied to the railroad tracks. I like this title. So when I got out of prison, I told the warden what happened. And the warden the big warden, Warden Jacka, came to me and said, "Tell me about your crime." So I told him the next day I got thrown in the hole for lying to the warden. The next day after that, he said, I had a meeting in front of all the guards. You go into like a jury, and he said, "We talked to Sheriff Roof Jordan. My God, you're telling the truth." "Yes, sir." He goes, "Yeah, that's not good." So February the 2nd, Groundhog's Day, was my birthday. On the 1st, they came and said, "You're leaving. Where are you going?" So to my mom and dad. So when I left February the 6th, I went to Denver and I walked into the post office and said, "Hi, I'm a bounty hunter and I need your top 10 and give me that." And then I went and bought a badge and I ordered it and waited for the mail every day when it came. And the only number I could remember was 271097. That was my prison number. So when they said, "What's your officer number?" I said, 271097. They wrote it out and everything, and boom, they sent me the badge, and I was like, here I go.
How many days or weeks or whatever the time period was out of prison did you bust your first bounty or your
2 months?
2 months. And at the beginning, what was it like? What were most of the crimes that you were going after? I imagine you weren't getting on airplanes or anything.
Well, yes, I did. Yes, it was, I wanted to die until I met a guy named Tony Robbins in 81. Saved my life, him and Martin Sheen. And I picked the worst stuff.
Tony Robbins and Martin Sheen?
I was a guest speaker, freak of nature, for Tony Robbins for 11 years. So I picked the worst of the worst to go in after because I thought, man, I really screwed up my life. I've got to die like a hero. I got to do this, right? And I'd go through the door, bullets flying, and they all missed. And then my chief called me and said, "You're like Sitting Bull. No man's bullet, dog, will ever harm you." And that just looked like, what's the record, right? I'm breaking it.
What is the the system? Because I think a lot of people don't know the nuts and bolts of it. The people post the bail,
right,
and then they split, and the bail bondsman is out the posting of the bail, right?
Correct.
And they need you to go get the person. Nobody. Now, there's talk about, I don't know, why don't the sheriff go do it, or why don't the cops go do it, or the feds, or whomever. But why is this branch of sort of law enforcement farmed out, so to speak, versus, I don't know, highway patrol? Go get them.
Okay, so in the bounty hunter law, besides prostitution, is the oldest law in America. Abraham Lincoln signed it in. So you could post bail for someone. If they jump bond, you have so many days to pay it. Well, you could hire a private citizen who could represent the bondsman in person and or by agent. We could work on the Sabbath, chase to state lines, interstate. We could get them and bring them in alive. Wanted, dead or alive, came from the bounty hunter. So, once you save the guy, then I charge the bondsman 10% or 15% for saving his 10 grand, and boom, you're good. The cops today, now I've done this so many years that back in the day there were sheriffs that were warrant squads and police departments that had the warrant squad. They don't have them anymore anywhere. Some down south still have a warrant squad. Cops are working with me literally in the field and a bank gets robbed. A kid gets snatched. Dog, we got to go get him. It's not that they just don't have the manpower or the money to be able to employ him to go after those guys. They hope the guy turns right on a red light or left on a red light or doesn't have a tail. Right. They're hoping for that.
What is, I know we have AB 109 out here.
Oh, my God.
There's a lot. We're doing.
What is that?
I'll drill down on a little dog will as well. There's something that I fear, and I think you're going to have opinions on this, and then I'm going to ask some pointed questions.
Okay.
The reverse engineering of our society. It's sort of like, as I've always said, like what's going on in these inner city schools. Too many young black boys being expelled. Okay. Stop expelling young black boys. All right, problem solved. It's like saying, I'm morbidly obese. Okay, get a Sharpie, and where it says 300 pounds on your scale, write 125 pounds.
Problem solved.
Problem solved, except for not problem solved. This notion of we're going to fix the prison population by just letting everyone out of prison or making it much harder for them to get into prison. Well, it does reduce the prison population. It doesn't really resolve the crime problem. And this notion of like everyone in prison is just there because they're selling a couple of joints at a Fish concert and they handed it to the wrong guy. I don't think it works that way. I think there is going to be the chickens will come home to roost. And you tell me your experience of your average guy in prison. You were in prison.
Correct.
You spent time. You know people in prison. You've sent hundreds of thousands of people to prison. The average guy who is in prison, is he just a harmless guy who was selling a little weed? And I don't want to front load it, or you give me your honest opinion on your average prisoner.
Well, the drug addict, no. Okay, he's hooked on the drug. The drug tells him what to do. But there are people going to hell. And most of them are in prison. And they don't care what it is, they're going to hurt you. And what happens with this 109 and all that? What about the victim that calls the police because the guy stole his car? Rape of an intoxicated girl in the state of California is no longer a violent crime.
Right.
And so on and so forth. Go drive by, bang him up, no longer a violent crime. So what they're trying to do, the politicians, is to lower the crime rate by dropping all those crimes. Oh, crime is down. Liar, liar, pants on fire. It is terrible what they're doing. Possession of heroin, bro, in your state is a misdemeanor.
Yeah, so what we're going to do is we're just going to redefine what a crime is, and thus we'll have less criminals.
Exactly right.
We'll have more A students if we make 60% on a test an A.
Exactly.
But it's like, are we going to help the students? Are they going to be smarter? Is the population going to be smarter? This is a very slippery slope, which is going on in politics now, where everyone is just kind of redefining things in order to up their test scores. It doesn't fix the problems. It's good for re-election, I guess, but it doesn't help the average citizen.
Well, the politicians shuck and jive the titles to it, okay? Like we read a title on an article, right? Then we know to keep reading. That he really didn't say that. So to help the crime, to make it safe streets, it was called Safe Streets. So
the crime bill was called Safe Streets, ironically.
And so the average citizen doesn't know that. They're busy.
I want safe streets.
Yeah,
I'll vote.
Exactly right. So it's felonious to me. I put people in jail that deserve sometimes second chances where these people don't deserve it. They know what they do. And
it's called the Safe Neighborhoods and School Act.
Oh,
no, is that incredible?
Yeah, just letting more formal felons hang out in your neighborhood, in your school. The funnier one to look up, Max Zapata, is I think San Francisco Remember, I'm always telling you they're controlling the language.
Just lately. Yeah.
Just lately decided to call ex-cons justice-involved individuals or something.
Yeah.
Again, that makes every attorney, that puts them in the same
they're
boat
involved.
as attorneys and judges because they're justice-involved and cops and
court reporters.
Anyway, again, going back and renaming things doesn't fix things. That's it actually hurts things because you've now labeled them not a problem because you fix them by changing the name of them and then you move on.
And there's a little bit of wedge in between. So instead of criminal, it's person involved in a crime. So there's just that little distance in between it.
And the Bible says you'll be known by your fruits. Well, if you change your fruits, you're not really known. And that's what it's all about. And it's sorry to keep going.
No, go ahead.
It's a couple legislators, okay? They're not all. I fought the law here, and we won by one vote the year before last. This year, Beth was sick. They lost by one vote. And they lied to these senators and congressmen. They don't have any streets or alley smarts. They don't get it. They have no idea. And these legislators or these ex-senators and all that, they lie like you. It's felonious, lying right to their. And then when they're done, they go, ha, 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 you see what I did? I was there and heard them. Now, more towards the south where you're like, wait a minute.
South of the country?
Yes. Explain this law to me. And then when they explain it, they're like, we would never vote for that. Here in California, these guys try to take, God we trust out. They try to take clergy out of the military. So it's really going to hurt California.
The convicted felons are now justice-involved persons, and formerly incarcerated persons are returning residents.
I would say
parolees are persons under supervision. Juvenile delinquents are young persons with justice system involvement. You got to find Garcetti because there's a great tape of Garcetti who it sounds like a yoga instructor who's getting ready to mount his boyfriend when you hear him speak. He says, he's this great thing where he goes, when these people are released from prison and they've paid their debt to society, we owe them our gratitude. It's like, we owe them gratitude because they killed someone in their car when they were drunk or something. We owe them. Thank you for not paying taxes over the last 7 years, citizen.
I think it's better. My idea was, are you convicted of felony? I wrote, we'll discuss. And I never was called in to discuss it. But if I would have been, I'd have said, yes, I have been, but let me tell you what happened. I think that's better. We'll discuss than a victim of society, right? Oh,
see me personally.
Because these guys hear that. You're telling the predator that stuff.
Well, junkie aside or drug-addicted individual aside, the prison populace is made up, in your opinion, of whom?
Kill or be killed.
The folks in this notion that these guys are all low-level guys that were selling some weed and somehow got tangled up in the system. Does that sound accurate to you?
No. These are people that have done crimes against other people, including their own mother. And they have no conscience, no heart. They have none at all. I mean, there are guys like and girls like that. Those people like that need to be incarcerated, put away, because they're never going to change. Your average drug addict, if you get him off, let him smoke pot. I have so many thousands of people on bail junkies and speed freaks that I go, listen, you're going to smoke that. I had a guy call me the other day, I'm going to beat you up. I said, why? Brother dog, you ruined my life for crime. I had a Twinkie last night, sex, and I went to sleep. And I'm telling you, and he said, I love you, dog. I said, love you too, brother. You're going to make it. I'm trying. I'm smoking a lot of that stuff, though. It's better than the heroin, I told him.
Yes.
It's something I've always noticed and actually really liked, even myself as a non-smoker. Whenever on the show, which we all love and watch,
thank you.
Whenever you'd grab somebody, the second they were in the back of the car, you'd give them a cigarette.
Yes.
Could you talk a little bit about that?
Well, cigarette, the nicotine, again, Apache, opens up the communications.
Interesting.
And you're so scared that you don't get to smoke because you know how cops are. You're under arrest. Do I get to smoke? No.
Right.
And so I'd be like, you want a cigarette? You want to talk? Here you go. So it's just smoking, I do, is a terrible habit. and it's an addictive habit, and you just want a cigarette so bad. And that's not right to do to them. I met an L.A. SWAT cop the other day, and I went in, booking a guy in, right? And I looked, and he had Marlboros in his pocket. And I said, what's that for? Do you smoke? He goes, nope. I go, what's that for? He goes, I'll watch your show.
Wow.
And this guy's redheaded, big old, hi, Lieutenant. But he's like, wow. And he does it because it's easier for him to give a cigarette and get information or make a friend than it is to act like they're pigs. You know what I mean?
The TV show, obviously, Dogs Most Wanted, and
Yes, sir.
the series is now up. New episodes Wednesdays, 9:00 on WGN.
Thank
and
you.
the website, dogthebountyhunter.com, is where you can go as well. Do you ever find that Garcetti clip? We've played it before.
Yeah, the clip's actually been taken down. So I do have the transcript, but I can.
Oh, it's all right. Well, he basically just explains that we owe the parolees our gratitude.
It says when people have paid their debt to society, our debt of gratitude should be not just thanking them for serving that time, but allowing them a pathway back in.
Wow.
Thanking them. Thank
There
you,
was a
person
senator-
who stabbed an elderly person.
That's
We should pay home our thanks. We want this pussy running this fucking city. This guy's such a pussy. What are we insane? There's something going on where we've decided nice had to somehow trump everything. And it's like, prisons are mean. Subarus are nice. What are we putting people in prisons for? We should put them in Subarus. It's like, and anyone who puts someone in a prison and anyone who puts a person in a Subaru is nice.
Thank
anyone
you.
who puts someone in a prison is mean. It's like, that's not the way you run things. Things don't work. You can't look no further than the fucking homeless population. You can't run a city on good vibes.
No.
It fucking falls apart immediately.
There is a Republican senator who joined the other side about letting these guys out for free. The day of the vote, ironically, his neighbor beat the hell out of him. You know who I mean? I won't say his name because...
Oh, we're talking about Rand Paul?
Yeah, guess what happened? The bond was $70,000. We told him, hey, I sent him flowers. Beth did. I said, hey, you want to let him out for free? No way. He dropped out of that. Whoa. Oh, wait a minute. You want to let them all go, but when you got your ass kicked, you're like, oh, I want this guy in jail. He was a doctor, lived next door, right?
Yeah.
Well,
that was over some hedges.
Yes.
Broke his ribs
Yeah.
and everything else.
Oh, you know that story, too.
Yes. What about the victims?
Amen.
What about the people who got their shit broken into or
Amen.
their daughter terrorized or raped or stabbed or whatever?
Right.
What about them? Does anyone care about them? I care about them.
The meanest thing besides saying, I'm going to shoot your ass is you're going to jail, buddy. I'm dialing, all our wives have 911 on redial. We can't bust them up. We can't slap them. But now domestic violence is no longer a violent crime. So when she says, I'm going to put you in jail, he laughs at her. New Jersey, I parked my car in a predominantly ghetto area. So I got a brother, said, come here, watch my car. How much? $20. Said, dog, ain't nobody going to touch it. He goes, what's ironic? I just got out of jail for burglary. Here's my slip of summons. And I looked at it. 1st-degree burglary. Court was September 11th. I said, whatever you do, bro, don't go to court. You know what he told me in my face, 40-year-old guy? Oh, bro, they're not serious, dog. He failed to appear. But he's, used to going to jail, book, printed, in jail, bond. Oh, they're not serious. He really, really thought that. Because he got a piece of paper like a ticket for littering. They weren't serious. He didn't go to court.
Is he... Wait a minute. Do you then bust him? How
No,
does that work?
because the state got out. So that guy knows he's wanted, but the cop that pulls him over doesn't.
Wow.
So that's where your cops get shot dead, because the perp knows he's wanted, and when that cop runs his name, ding, 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 he hits a jackpot. So that when the cop comes up, wham, they shoot and run.
Right.
That's what's happening all across America. That's changed these laws. No, what is going on? It's like, is it money motivated?
No, I wrote a
what is
book. I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I'll tell you exactly what's going on. I wrote a book 10 years ago. It's called "In 50 Years We'll All Be Chicks." This is chick think. Sorry, Gina.
No, it's all good.
This is not male think. It's chick thinks. And that's fine. Chick think is good, meaning my wife thinks differently than I think, and my kids benefit from the difference in the way we think.
I think I should hug them. I think I should acknowledge them.
That's right. There's a difference. Now, you don't want to overdo it like your dad.
No.
Right.
But my point is this. There is a sort of feminine, feelings-based, it's basically, it's a thought of the terrorists. They have kids. They love their kids. They want to get along. Why wouldn't everyone want to just be in harmony and just whatever? It's a sort of it's not how General MacArthur thought. It's not how Patton thought. It's not how Churchill thought. There was a balance, a feminine think and a masculine think. And again, lest you think I'm being pejorative here, I'm saying neither one is inherently good or bad. It's just different, and it provides a balance.
Right.
What has happened over the last decade is we've tipped the seesaw. One side had walnuts on it. The other side had a bucket of Massengale douche.
Right.
And it started to dip down. And people, even my own colleagues like Dr. Drew, kept saying the evolution is toward the douche side. That's the evolved way of thinking. The way you're thinking is caveman thinking. The way they're thinking is evolved. So if you listen to politicians a few years ago, they spoke totally different. It wasn't even about right or left or anything. You hear Obama 6 years ago. He's talking about the border. He's talking about why people come in, they bring their kids, they have to be separated. We can't let people come into the interior. He sounded like Trump 6 years ago. Now they all sound like chicks. You listen to Beto O'Rourke speak, that guy sounds like he's got tits and a pussy. They've all gone...
Not pejorative, though.
Well,
all gone chick. It's all gone chick think. Now, again, bad for policy, good for kids, good for many things, bad for policy, especially if it gets tilted. What it needs is a balance. The balance is when these prisoners are incarcerated, we should teach them traits and give them a shot on the outside. When they get outside and we find out that they're felons, that shouldn't be marked for life.
No.
They should understand it. Yes, they served their debt, and now they've learned how to do TIG welding, and we can now incentivize employers to employ. That's a balance of chick think and dude think. But we've turned into chicks, and that's where we're at, and that's what's happening now.
If you train them for a job and a trade, they do it.
Gina, give me a coffee, would you, sweet?
Yeah, no problem. How much milk you want?
I use the right titty.
Oh, boy.
Well, like your lady here, Harris, that now she wanted to make it a law before the cop draws down on a guy. He's got to call his supervisor and see if it's okay. What planet literally did she come from? Anybody got her home address? I know some people like to look through her drawers.
What drawer?
I mean,
to see if she has guns or
and jewelry, whatever. Let's see what you like about it, Pammy. When they start hitting your pad.
Oh, again, when a guy named Dog says, "Look through your drawers,"
you know where it's going.
Oh, I'm not like that.
We found the Garcetti clip. We'll just play 30 seconds of it.
Oh yeah.
When we invest in people, we don't know where things will turn out. But when people have paid their debt to society, our debt of gratitude should be not just thanking them for serving that time, but allowing them a pathway back in.
All right. Oh, my God.
Yeah. Now, that guy sounds like a chick. That guy's a heterosexual dude who is doing chick think and chick
exactly
talk.
right.
That's where we're at.
I think sissy is better than chick. I mean, I think there are sissy. You're a man's man. That's why you're saying that.
I'm not. I realize there's a balance in nature.
Yeah.
There's literally look. If this happened to the fucking polar bear population, there would be issues. If the male polar bears started acting like the female polar bears, then there'd be like, well, who's hunting seals? Like, I don't know. I'm hanging out with you. Like I'm going to nurture the cubs. Like there's a balance. It's a balance in nature. It's a balance in government. It's a balance, and it's getting off balance.
Yes.
And then the troubles. And by the way, if it starts tilting all dude, then that's off balance too. And there will be consequences to all dudes. It's the balance that we're screwing up.
Well, I think a lot of states that do that, a lot of people are moving.
Yes.
Like Colorado legalized pot, because of epilepsy and all that. I mean, it works. CBD, I use it on my leg. It really works. So people that use that have kids that need it, move there. And so I think that if you like crime and you want to be, Hug a Thug program, go stay there, brah. I'm going down south where they'll shoot you. I was going to tell you something. You're going to like this about guns. And I hate to be all over the calendar, but they went to Jesus and said, listen, they're stealing all my clothes, Lord. What do we do? They're breaking into our houses. Jesus said, well, maybe if you'd sell some of those clothes and buy a sword, it'd all stop.
Right.
So, yeah.
Look, the gun thing is a whole nother kettle of fish, and it's another way to try to solve a problem by sort of reverse engineering. People are getting shot. How do we get rid of the guns? Versus why are so many fucked up teens shooting people? That's access to guns is great, except for we can't get rid of that.
Right,
so
right.
why are we focusing on that? Speaking of that, by the way, this is a nice segue into teencounseling.com. All right, Dog, we're going to let you go.
Oh, I
we're
like
gonna
this.
Give you
Can
another...
I come back? I want to talk again.
Come back anytime you like.
You,
Dog's Most Wanted TV show. It premiered, and it's up Wednesday nights, 9 o'clock, WGN, and also the website, dogthebountyhunter.com. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back, and we'll do the news right after this.